week in our worship service, we take a moment where we pause and we pass the peace of Christ. Now, that's an important spiritual habit that we do every week prior to coming to the communion table. It reminds us about the love of God for us and how that changes our relationship with God. It reminds us that we are called to make peace with other people as well. And so it's an important spiritual discipline, spiritual habit that we celebrate every week to remind us and form us into that kind of people. Recently I was reminded of the story of the Christmas truce of 1914. It's that incredible story where the soldiers from Britain and Germany actually took a pause in the fighting. They crossed over the trenches and they, a couple of weeks prior to Christmas, offered season's greetings. They shared meals. They helped one another bury their fallen friends. They played soccer together. They sang Christmas carols. It's an incredible story in the midst of a world war that this would happen. I can't help but think that that could only happen because those young men had in some sense been formed by the idea of Christmas, of Christ bringing peace and goodwill towards all people. Having been formed their whole lives by that, they couldn't help but live into that moment. And so we have this incredible story. It's probably also telling that a year later, as the war continued, there were fewer instances of this. And by 1916, very few at all. It seems that other habits had been formed in the midst of fighting and killing and warfare. But it does point to me to the importance of the way we can be formed by spiritual disciplines and spiritual habits. We're approaching the Christmas season. And we know that Thanksgiving precedes Christmas. In thinking about that, it occurs to me that we have a wonderful opportunity to prepare ourselves for what it means to encounter Christ bringing light into the world, to encounter the reality of the peace and goodwill that is brought by Christ. We can prepare ourselves by the habit of thanksgiving, the spiritual habit of giving thanks. Paul writes to the Thessalonians to give thanks in all circumstances. That's our opportunity as we live into this Thanksgiving season, to cultivate a spiritual discipline, not just as individuals, but as an entire community, to embrace what it means to be a people shaped by thanksgiving. I suspect that living into that spiritual practice, the spiritual practice of giving thanks in all circumstances, might be the best thing we could possibly do to prepare ourselves for, once again, the reality of Christ bringing light into the world and us being aware of Christ bringing the message of peace and goodwill towards all people.